Welcome to Beating Cancer Daily. Beating stage 4 cancer for 30 years still takes my breath away every time I say it. I'm Saranne, founder of the Comedy Cures Foundation, and I hope you'll join me for just a few minutes daily for the next 365 days so we may laugh, learn, maybe cry a little as we live our best days beating cancer daily together. So Jacqui is really excited to talk about anti-nutrients, and we've mentioned them here and there before in the podcast. And every time I think of an anti-nutrient, I think of sugar because she always says sugar's an anti-nutrient, but there's a much bigger anti-nutrient story. So don't think you've heard this before. This is pretty powerful, but I can't talk about it because I only know sugar is an anti-nutrient. So I'm going to bring on Jacqui Bryan. She's our functional medicine expert, certified nutrition specialist, RN, whole health educator, and just an overall dynamic healthcare professional. So welcome, Jacqui.
Thank you, Saranne. I'm actually looking forward to this topic. And one of the reasons is I think it's miraculous. I actually think it's so cool because it's sort of this internal system that plants have that's designed to protect them from insects and bacterial infections. So what happens to us is when we eat certain plant-based foods, it becomes an anti-nutrient in our body, but it actually starts off as a protective mechanism for the plant. So I just think nature's incredible. You and I have talked about this so many times through all these, 130 podcasts we've done together.
It is amazing because, yes, we are probably at 130, the two of us right now. We're over 420 overall. And I just found out, I didn't even tell Jacqui yet. Wait till you hear this. We just added 4 more countries. We're in 148 countries.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's amazing. Do we have to start speaking other languages?
No, thank God for AI. AI is doing that for us. But I forgot to just let you know that it's been such a crazy week. But yeah, we added Nicaragua, we added Mali, we added Cote d'Ivoire, and I'm trying to think, oh, Angola. So
Wow.
those are the
That's
4
amazing.
that we've added just this week. And we're in 148 countries helping people, Jacqui. This is such a celebration. So if
It
you're in
is.
any of our new countries, I just want to say welcome. We love you and we're excited for you to listen to the hundreds of episodes.
Yes, welcome. I today is all about the anti-nutrients. And as Saren mentioned, we were discussing that sugar is an anti-nutrient because when you eat sugar, it actually depletes your body of vital minerals and other nutrients. But today, we're actually talking about anti-nutrients that are present in some of the really healthy foods. And I know you're probably sitting back thinking, no, don't start telling me I can't eat certain plant-based foods. And that is not what we are saying. This is a conversation starter. This is for us to educate you a little bit about maybe not avoiding these particular types of foods, but possibly preparing them in a different way.
Oh, so that's the secret. We can still
Yes.
eat these plants. We just have to do them in a different preparation. So we're not chomping on the raw leaf necessarily.
No, you give such good visuals.
Well, I can't wait to hear what plants have this superpower, this protective measure, and then how we adapt it for ourselves.
Well, I wanted to give the positive swing on it because I wanted to say, hey, these plants are protecting themselves from the bacterial infections and from insects by having certain components to it. But unfortunately, when we eat them, they become anti-nutrients, meaning they actually compete in the body for absorption, right? So it could potentially impair our ability to absorb certain foods. But let's just start off by saying for most individuals, anti-nutrients are not something we should be worried about. And there are some anti-nutrients that are also really beneficial. So for example, we're going to talk briefly about tannins today. And tannins are found in things like beans, legumes, and those tannins and why they have actually been beneficial for lowering blood pressure and decreasing cholesterol levels. So it doesn't mean that they're all bad, but what we're going to talk about is how you can prepare them so that you can get the biggest bang for your nutritional buck, right? Because we know that plants have lots of fiber, they have vitamins and minerals and other protective compounds, the antioxidants that are beneficial. So we absolutely need them, but that they can affect how our body absorbs certain nutrients. And in some cases, it can affect iron. And it's really important for people that are dealing with anemia. It can affect calcium, which is really important for people that are dealing with like osteoporosis or osteopenia, and zinc, which is super important for our immune system. So again, it doesn't mean you don't eat them. It just means we want to be a little more clever with maybe the ways that we're consuming them. So today we're going to talk about 5 of them, and these are phytates, oxalates, lectins, tannins, glucosinolates, and goitrogens. And I was actually thinking, you know how we have such fun, well, you come up with all the names for the podcast, but I was thinking about phytates, oxalates, lectins. Oh my, with Dorothy, I was thinking, oh, I was coming up with ones.
I love this, Jacqui, because this is the second episode in a row where you are suggesting titles. And I love that because I've had to come up with hundreds of titles. If you heard the raw versus steamed episode that we did recently, I could see how there's a little bit of crossover here, but we're just going to go much deeper on this
It is.
episode. So even
Yes.
if you
Yeah,
haven't heard that yet, you still are going to want to go back and listen to that one because I can see how they're like brother sister episodes right now.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as coming up with names for the podcast, it's only taken me 130 episodes to be brave enough to.
Well, let me give you a hint. They hate when we have these long titles. And so I've had such clever episodes, but the distributors of podcasts want you to have short episode titles.
Okay.
And I already have to say that you're our expert joining us. So they have to be even shorter now. So I have to condense them. So while you're thinking of your clever episode titles, think of more condensed title names. And we always have this open door with our listeners. So if you have a topic that you think we haven't covered yet, or you have a great title for a short podcast episode, just go to comedycures.org and write it to us through the contact menu or record it in the podcast section. Just record it to us if you don't want to type. And then Jacqui and I can do it if we haven't already done it. And we love creative collaboration. So this is
We so appreciate that because then we know that we're serving our community, right? We really love to hear from you. It's interesting because this topic is something that didn't come from a listener, but it actually came from one of my one-on-one clients who was feeling very anxious about anti-nutrients because this particular person had cancer and was really trying to do everything right for their body, right? And eating plant-based foods makes total sense for that. And they were becoming quite anxious about the whole thought process of having anti-nutrients in their body. So definitely going to dive into that and have a better understanding of those for sure.
so for the lay people like me, can you describe what all these eights are, like oxalate and all these things, so that we know what you're talking about in terms of vegetables?
We're going to talk about what they are, what foods have them in it, what is the effect on nutrient absorption, and are there certain health conditions that are linked to these, right? Because that's probably where the red flag goes up, where people might say, hey, if I have osteoporosis, then boy, I need to pay attention to this, right? So let's start with the phytates because those are the ones that are best well known. And I'm going to guess some of you may have heard of phytates before. They're also called phytic acid. They're natural compounds that are found in the plant-based foods, and plants store phosphorus in this form to support the seed growth. But phytates are actually whole grains. They're beans and lentils, nuts and seeds, and they provide us with lots of fiber, B vitamins, magnesium, and antioxidants. So again, this sounds wonderful, but, and I love this big but in a lot of these, but they can actually bind to certain minerals in your digestive tract and can actually lower how much of those you actually absorb.
I just thought that's probably why we fart when we eat beans. That's probably why we fart. I'm not kidding. And you know that song, Jackie, beans, beans, they're good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you fart. The more you fart, the better you feel. Let's have beans for every meal. But you're going to tell us how to have beans and not fart, I bet.
It's so funny because our listeners cannot see what just happened, but when you said fart, I was just about to take a big old gulp of my tea. It's gonna spit it all over the place because really anything goes on this podcast, right? We've shared so many intimate. When you and I have our conversations, it's sort of like it's just us in the room, but then we realize, oh, there's thousands of listeners.
Yeah, there's a lot more than thousands, Jack.
I know Saranne hasn't told me because she doesn't want to freak me out, so that's okay.
We just pretend it's just the two of us.
Yes, there's the two of us. Okay. So phytates can actually compete with the absorption of certain minerals, and these are things like iron, zinc, and calcium. And this matters really for people who rely heavily on grains and legumes as their primary source of nutrients, and that those would be like our vegetarians and our vegans. We know that phytates can be reduced in certain foods like soaking beans and grains before cooking them and sprouting grains or legumes and even seeds, right? Because we know that sprouting pumpkin seeds, for example, can make it that some of the anti-nutrients actually go away, and even fermenting foods such as sourdough or even cooking them thoroughly, right? So there are different ways, and we're going to talk even more about ways to consume these in a safer manner. But just know that phytates can be reduced by preparing them in a specific way. And when I think about somebody that might be dealing with iron deficiency, if they're anemic, somebody in that particular situation, they want to be careful with phytates because phytates can actually lower the absorption of non-heme iron. And non-heme iron is actually the iron you get from plants, right? And so people with low iron levels can benefit from pairing iron with vitamin C sources, things like citrus, orange, or pepper or tomato that will help with absorption for sure.
It's interesting because I was told that you pair beans with rice and that helps you fart less, but it also helps you absorb more. Is that true, Jack?
It depends on the rice and it depends on the person and their sensitivity. If somebody is sensitive to fermentable carbohydrates, which will have to happen with beans, sometimes they need to go on like a low FODMAP diet or something like that. That's a situation where it won't matter if they pair it with rice or not, but there are situations where it could help. People that have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, we call that SIBO, sometimes have difficulty digesting certain plants that we were just talking about. We call them those the fermentable carbohydrates. And those that fall into that are beans and grains because they cause symptoms. And that would put the rice in that category. And that's where the person is having the fermentation in the gut of the beans and the grains. And that's causing them bloating and gassiness and all of those kind of things. So sometimes we don't really know what's causing the symptoms until we keep a food journal. It's one of my favorite things to do with people is keep a food and symptom journal. And that way, this will give us loads of information in working together so that we can find a solution that will help individuals, right? Because you are an individual. And one of the things that I do in my practice is this personalized medicine, right? So it's not a one size fits all. It could be that you're perfectly fine with phytate sarin, but maybe the oxalates are ones that we avoid, which I know you do anyways because of the kidney stones.
Yeah, I was going to say that this food journal idea isn't as complicated as it sounds. You can just put it in your phone or carry a little notebook with you. And for a week, just write down what time you ate, what you've eaten, and how you reacted to that. Did it make you sleepy? Did it make you fart? I think this is the most I've ever said fart in a podcast episode.
That's the name, the Fart Podcast.
Did it make you, alert? Did you feel bloated? Just write down a few notes. And even if you don't have someone like Jacqui to review it with, you're going to end up seeing patterns and you can start to modify your own diet and really eat for your own body. It's real personalized medicine.
It is. And it's so important. It's one of the reasons I have the clients that work with me, they actually get an app and they can track and everything that they track, I'm actually looking at on the back end. It's kind of like Big Brother watching.
So, just in case you don't know what an app is, what happens is Jacqui and her client have the same access to something on the computer. And when the person starts keeping track of their diet and what they're doing and how they're feeling, she doesn't have to wait until another appointment. She can actually see it real time as they're putting it into the application, the app on the phone or on the computer. That's pretty cool, Jack.
Yeah, it's a nice way to stay in touch. It's a great accountability partnership, at least for the client and I, because they're never alone, right? And so, for example, if someone had a question about oxalates, which are the next anti-nutrient that we're talking about, we can actually discuss it, right? It could be that they get symptomatic after eating a high oxalate food like spinach, beets, rhubarb, chocolate, sweet potatoes, almonds.
No wonder I have kidney stones. I love all of those. No, I'm
I know,
kidding.
because these foods have vitamin A, vitamin K, magnesium, antioxidants, and lots of fiber. And oxalates are something that can bind with calcium in the digestive tract. And in some people, Saranne, high oxalate levels can contribute to the formation of calcium oxalate kidney stones. Those are the most common kidney stones, but they also affect calcium absorption. So if somebody has osteoporosis, we'd be concerned about that as well.
All right. Have you been reading my medical file? No, I'm just-
Well, no, I'm just familiar with your quarry.
Yes, exactly. I have both. But it's interesting because we're saying that in the first category, it's really good to soak, and then we have better absorption. So this category, we're not soaking. What are we doing here?
Well, no, there's different ways that we can deal with it. So for oxalates, boiling certain vegetables and draining the water can actually help reduce oxalates. And then for you, consuming foods that have oxalates in them, staying well hydrated is really important. And then also eating calcium rich foods with particular meals because we know that's going to help sustain your calcium levels in your body. Keep in mind that for most people, oxalates do not cause a problem when they're eaten as a part of a balanced diet. But those that are prone to kidney stones, those oxalate stones are really the most common ones that get formed. And so if you have a history of kidney stones, they may benefit from moderating the oxalate food intake in their diet.
I want to go back to this idea of the app for a second because I was trying to think of a quick hack for someone if they do want an accountability partner and they don't have an app that people can look at and you don't have a guide like Jacqui. I was thinking if you had a Google Gmail account, then you could set up a folder and give your accountability partner, your friend or family member, access to that file. And you could be keeping that rundown, that list of what you were eating with the time and how it made you feel. And then somebody else, whenever they wanted to, could just check in and then see that you were doing it. And maybe they wanted to do it too. And you could check on theirs. And that way you would have the privacy. You could do it together and you don't have to do it in a big fancy app. That would be for free because you could get a Gmail account for free. So I was just trying to think how somebody could do it on the down low if they wanted to do it.
100%. Like playing detective is actually super fun, right? I think it's really enlightening. If you start keeping a journal like you were talking about or using an app like I was talking about, then, it's really when you start writing down what you eat and how you feel, you may have one of those aha moment. Like, for example, people that have digestive conditions, they may be impacted by calcium oxalates. So they might have a digestive disorder that increases the way oxalates are absorbed, so they might not feel great, or they might have a change in their bacteria, and you're not going to necessarily know this by keeping track in a journal, but any medical professional might say, hey, you've got an overgrowth of bacteria or something that's impacting how these particular foods are being handled in your body. So definitely great information to have.
So are we steaming these vegetables? What are we doing with these? Spinach and so forth.
So for this one, we were just talking, yeah, more boiling certain vegetables if we're trying to get rid of the oxalates. I don't love boiling because it actually will drain a lot of the nutrients away. But if you are dealing with oxalate issue and you want to consume those foods, the spinach, the beets, the rhubarb, the chocolate, the sweet potatoes, then maybe boiling is a good place to start. Now, it might mean that you're not going to be sensitive to oxalates forever, but it's a good place to start.
Don't boil the chalk. That's all I ask.
No,
Don't boil it.
it could be that you had a kidney stone and you're really just wanting to prevent it. It's good to be aware of some of those. The one that I hear about from individuals are the lectins, right? And the lectins are also found in plant foods. They actually, again, protect the plants from insects and pests. Like, I think that's so cool. I know I've said this before, but these foods like beans and lentils and peanuts and tomatoes and potatoes, they're incredible when it comes to protecting themselves. And they're also going to give us protein and fiber, B vitamins, iron, and magnesium. If we're eating them in large amounts, beans can be difficult to digest, which brings us back to your whole fart comment, because I cannot eat beans very well. It's more dose dependent, right? So I could have a quarter of a cup of beans, but if I'm like at a half a cup of beans, I'm tooting around the kitchen.
What, what if they're very cooked, like in Indian food, where they're very cooked?
Cooking does reduce the lectin levels and it does improve digestibility, but it still causes Jacqui to toot.
Well, I'm thinking,
Wait, there's another name. Toot toot.
I love that you're on this roll about the titles.
I'm I'm crushing it. Am I crushing it right now? I'm crushing it. Yeah.
You are crushing it. You are crushing it. But I'm thinking back to when I was on all those years of chemotherapy and radiation and had all the anesthesia from all the surgeries. And then there were pain meds, although I didn't really take a lot of pain meds, but still, there's just a little bit of pain meds. My digestion was wrecked. So I don't think I could have handled a lot of this stuff as I rebuilt back my stomach.
It's such a great observation. Like when you're finishing treatment, you really have to listen to your body, right? And you're going to find in different stages and phases of your life, maybe you're going through menopause, maybe you had surgery, maybe you have chemotherapy. Your gut bacteria changes as situations in your life change. It's like sort of like your fingerprint. It's unique to you. And so what I like people to think about is maybe you can't handle the beans right now, but we could work our way up to that if that's an important thing for you to have in your life. Preparing beans and lentils and things like that so that you can eat them. Soaking dried beans before cooking them is a really good strategy. The longer they're soaked, the more you're going to get rid of those anti-nutrients that we're concerned about. cooking them thoroughly. I don't really like crunchy, chewy beans anyways, but you want to cook them thoroughly. And you can even use pressure cooking for the legumes, right? Because when they're properly prepared, those legumes and grains can be considered not only safe, but more tolerable for you.
There's a doctor on television that I won't mention his exact name, but he is so against tomatoes.
Hmm.
Absolutely no tomatoes. He thinks tomatoes are evil. I actually have developed an allergy to
Mm.
tomatoes. And so, how would you handle tomatoes?
Well, it depends. I wouldn't give them to you.
No, because I look like a tomato and I love tomato sauce. I actually have learned to like fresh tomato, but it's not agreeing with me right now. And it's so funny because I never had a visible reaction to tomatoes, and that has developed. But how would you handle tomatoes?
So I eat tomatoes. I don't eat a ton of tomatoes. I have a hard time with blanket statements that things are all bad or things are all good because I think all of us are unique. And it's not to challenge this physician in any way. It's more like everybody's different. They may get more benefit from it. If somebody really needs lycopene in their diet, and that's what you're going to get from tomato, and tomatoes are things that are really enjoyable for this individual, then I don't see a problem with it being incorporated into their diet.
What is lycopene good for?
Oh, it's an antioxidant, it's cancer prevention. There's a lot of incredible things. Remember all those colors of the rainbow, right? Even watermelon has lycopene in it. It's that red, robust color that we see. I just love, I know I'm digressing a little, but just going into the produce section when with all the bright, beautiful colors, every one of those colors has a medicinal benefit that's going to be wonderful for the health of individuals. And so in this situation, we talked about tomatoes being lectin producing, and cooking them can definitely help. And also maybe preparing them in a way where it's more dose dependent, where you're not going to eat tomatoes, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe weave them in a little bit. And we do that through reintroduction of diets when people are keeping a journal, and we explore maybe bringing foods back in once they're feeling better. Some people that have SIBO, we talked about that, the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, can experience really bloating and gas after eating beans or grains or even tomatoes. And that's because of the fermentable carbohydrates that are in them. And that means that they go, and maybe I can even describe it a little better, that when you eat these foods, they go down into your intestine and they ferment, right? There's bacteria in there that helps them ferment. And that can, in some individuals, create a level of bloating and gassiness and all that kind of stuff. So definitely something to think about, but doesn't mean we avoid the lectins, but we're just smart about it, right? If you have an allergy like Saranne, you avoid them. If you're someone that is in need of some lycopene, then bring them in, right? I think lectins, and then the one we were talking about earlier was tannins. Some of the health benefits of tannins are great for lowering blood pressure and lipids, right? But again, this tannin falls into a healthy group of polyphenols. They're the things that give our food and drink our that bitter or dry taste. Think about your wine or tea, coffee, cocoa, grapes, berries, legumes. They're beautiful.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because you're mentioning so many things that are on the diets when you're trying to eat an anti-cancer diet to keep your immune system healthy. Berries are on there, right?
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about in the raw vegetable episode was you're eating the raw vegetables and that's great. You're getting nutritional benefits from it. But in some cases, cooking those are going to give you even more benefit. This is a little bit different in the sense that, yes, you're going to get the wonderful benefits of these foods raw, but maybe from a health standpoint, you would benefit from just cooking them a little bit. These foods that I just listed that have tannins in them are rich in the polyphenols, antioxidants, fiber, vitamin C. The tannins actually combine to nutrients like iron. So if you imagine if I'm anemic, then, if I'm having tea or coffee with meals, this may reduce how much iron my body actually absorbs. So if I'm anemic and, they're working with me, I might say, hey, it's okay you have coffee or tea, but maybe we don't have it with a meal because we want to make sure we're getting full benefit of that iron, right? So the effect of these tannins is more noticeable with non-heme iron, and that's the iron we get from plants. And those are foods that have foods that are like beans and lentils and leafy greens. Those are the ones with iron in it. And so just simple techniques such as having your tea and coffee between meals instead of with the meal will make a difference. Or even if you're eating foods that have iron in it, pair it with some vitamin C, the citrus, the peppers, and the tomatoes, because that's actually going to assist the iron in being absorbed.
So there you go, because everybody gets that big old steak, which has a lot of iron in it, but then they drink 3 glasses of wine with that steak. So then you're probably not getting the iron from the steak. But I have heard Jackie say if you had a glass of wine with some nuts and cheese,
Yeah.
you're modulating what the tannins are
Mhm.
doing. So we are not advocating that you have 3 glasses of wine before you have your steak. We're just telling you about the tannins.
That's the hard part, right? So I'm talking about tea and coffee. Wine is a different story in terms of blood sugar balance, how if you get lightheaded. I don't like wine being consumed on an empty stomach, not because of the tannins, but more because the liver recognizes it as a toxin and we want to lessen the blow to the body. So there's so much to think about when it comes to food. Can you see why I love what I do so much, Sarah? Really, when it's cool.
I do, because you're educating us to be really
Yeah.
smart eaters. And that label detective episode is one of the classics that we always refer to. And today I had a facial. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I had this beautiful facial. I bought a little package so I would pamper myself every month at one of these discount facial places. And I was teaching this young 20-year-old about eating the rainbow.
Oh, I love that.
And that is one of the tricks that you taught us to just make sure you're getting all these colors. And it's something that you can share and teach so quickly because you can explain how Jackie talks about fruits and vegetables and how and that doesn't mean go to the candy store and get a different color candy bar. That's really go to the produce section and get different colors, fruits and vegetables and try to weave 9 to 13 into your day. And the thing I teach the most is apple counts as two because you have the outside color and the inside color. So you've already had two of your nine. It's brilliant.
Well, it's also brilliant is educating somebody in the skincare industry because plants are like the magic formula for glowing skin. I thought you looked rather glowing this morning. You do. Stunning. I wanted our last group to be, I just think this is a really interesting one, the glucosinolates or goitrogens. Those are the anti-nutrients that are found in cruciferous vegetables. And yes, the most hated vegetable is Brussels sprouts. That was one of our podcasts, and it happens to be one of my favorites. But I think it's important for us to just cover these because they are super beneficial, anti-cancer, antioxidant, really incredibly helpful and healthful for the body. Examples of foods that have these glucosinolates in them or goitrogens are broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, and bok choy. We are not saying don't eat these because these have so many incredible benefits, fiber, vitamin C, vitamin K, folate, potassium. But when these vegetables are chopped, chewed, or cooked, the glucosinolates from several active compounds are present, right? And some of these compounds are known as goitrogens. And what does goitrogens mean? I'll just preface it with this. Like, have you ever known anybody that has had a goiter?
I have.
Yes. See, you're so smart, Saranne. Goitrogens are so goiters are growths that happen on your thyroid and your thyroid gland that's in your neck. But goitrogens can actually interfere with how your thyroid actually uses iodine. which is needed to produce thyroid hormones, right? So if you're somebody that has thyroid issues, while cruciferous vegetables are incredibly healthful, we want to be very thoughtful about this because we really want to make sure that we're getting iodine into our diet because very low levels of iodine can occur when we are eating many of these foods or if we have some thyroid disease. So we know that large amounts of cruciferous vegetables, when they're consumed, can lower the iodine intake or absorption. So for most people, moderate intake of cruciferous vegetables is not going to affect your thyroid health. However, if we want to assure this, we probably want to do a little bit of steaming, roasting, and sauteing because those can help get rid of the goitrogens. And what does it mean for health conditions? So if you have hypothyroidism, people that have that thyroid condition have to limit some of their large amounts of cruciferous vegetables. The cooked cruciferous vegetables are generally well tolerated, and we want to make sure that those individuals are getting adequate iron intake. One of my children, my oldest one, had a goiter on her thyroid. They're not really sure how it happened. It was post-COVID, and we were very careful with ways for her to get iodine in. And one of the things we did is if you're going to consume these cruciferous vegetables, which she loves, we want to make sure that they're cooked. And we also want to make sure that she was going to get the iodine in different types of foods, like shellfish or something along that line. So other people that have digestive conditions, the cruciferous vegetables are going to ferment in the gut area that can cause that gas, bloating, or farting, as you mentioned. So we want to just make sure that we cook the vegetables, which can improve the tolerance of them.
This is great, Jack. So much information. I'm going to have to listen to this twice because it is just really so important that we really think about what we're eating, how much we're getting, but then how we are preparing it.
I just want to briefly mention some of the cooking methods. Just once again, I know I mentioned it with each one of the anti-nutrients, but I think it's important enough that we should just revisit it before we end today. Boiling. Boiling is going to degrade the anti-nutrients in the beans, the legumes, and the whole grains. As a general rule of thumb, the longer you cook it, the lower the amount of anti-nutrients. There is a little trick for boiling beans. You can add in a dried piece of kombu, which is brown sea kelp. It's used in Japanese cooking, and that can actually help reduce the gas producing qualities of the beans. Soaking is another one we did review, and that's where we soak the beans, the legumes, or the grains overnight. That's going to really maximize the nutrient absorption and ease the gas and the bloating. Sprouting is the other one that we chatted about, especially with pumpkin seeds. I only eat sprouted pumpkin seeds.
I only eat sprouted almonds.
Yes,
So
yeah.
both pumpkin seeds and almonds, I now get them sprouted. I don't sprout them, I buy them sprouted.
Yeah, same here. But when we sprout them, we reduce the anti-nutrient content and improve our ability to digest them. Remember, you and I have talked so much about you are what you absorb. We think about you are what you eat, but you are what you can actually absorb. And so sprouting something makes that a little bit easier for individuals to absorb, as is fermenting, right? So when you ferment something, that fermentation happens when the bacteria begins breaking down carbohydrates. And if you're fermenting pre-soaked grains and legumes, it can reduce the anti-nutrient content by up to 50%, which is pretty significant. And it improves the digestibility of them as well. So those are some just simple strategies. You can go online and find out the best ways to do that for yourself. Or even if you've got a method that we didn't talk about, can you write us at Comedy Cures and just let us know? Because I think it's pretty exciting to hear the way that different people use cooking and preparation methods to improve their health.
Especially because we're in so many different countries. We're on 7 continents. So I'm sure there are ways that you're preparing things that we didn't cover. Thank you so much, Jacqui. I got to take us out on a joke because there weren't a lot of jokes about anti-nutrients, but I thought I'd go for cruciferous because that's a funny word anyway. And I'm making this one up. What kind of music do cruciferous vegetables listen to?
I don't know. What kind of music does cruciferous vegetables listen to?
Rock and roll.
Oh,
Well, you
that is
mentioned
so cute.
broccoli,
That
so
is so
I was
cute.
like, let's go with that. Okay. Thank you so much, Jacqui Bryan. If you want to learn more about Jacqui Bryan, go to jacquibryan.com. If you want to learn more about the Comedy Cures Foundation, which I started 27 years ago from my chemo chair by throwing a chemo comedy party, go to comedycures.org. And if you can't find Jacqui, then just come back to comedycures.org and I will send you her signature. Remember, you can always write to us or record a message to us there. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow. If you loved today's episode, then tell the world. Why? Because Beating Cancer Daily is a listener and donor supported experience. So the more people you tell and the more people that join us, the more robust and interesting programs our nonprofit, the Comedy Cures Foundation, can bring to you throughout the year. So if you have some extra change, I'd love you to go to comedycures.org and make a donation today of whatever level is comfortable for you. And it will be tax deductible to the extent allowed by law, because Comedy Cures is a nonprofit 501c3 organization founded from my chemo chair, April 1999, and we've been going strong ever since. So please consider making a donation today and help our community and this podcast thrive. Guess what time it is? It's time for me to read the disclaimer. Beating Cancer Daily and the membership circle are not in lieu of medical advice or treatment. They are for entertainment purposes only. Please consult your healthcare team to review your best strategy. Thanks for listening. See you guys tomorrow.